There are emergency evacuations happening right now with the rain continuing to come down amid this New South Wales flood emergency. 18,000 people have been evacuated over the last several days, and there could be 15,000 more over the coming days. At least 38 local government areas have been declared disaster zones. So there are warnings covering much of New South Wales, much of the entire coast, and even stretching into southern Queensland and parts of Victoria too. And so the concern, and even in Western New South Wales, although the warnings have been lifted for there now, Tibooburra, up around there in New South Wales, got more than 100 mils in the last couple of days, and that was about 6 months worth of rain. So the rain has been falling right across large parts of New South Wales, but the concern continues for places in the east, with rivers still in flood and hundreds more millimetres of rain possible in the next 24 hours. So a particular area of concern today is the northwest of Sydney. So water has been spilling over the Warragamba Dam, heading north on the Nepean River. That becomes the Hawkesbury River. And then the Colo River comes in from the northwest and joins with the Hawkesbury just north of Sackville. So there's deep concern about that area today, because that's a junction where these two huge surges of water are meeting right now. So Premier Gladys Berejiklian says the flood crisis impacting large areas of New South Wales is catastrophic in its scale, and she's warned the end of the rain won't be the end of the floods.
Even if the sun is shining in parts of Western Sydney tomorrow, which is what the forecast is, it doesn't mean rivers won't continue to rise or conditions won't worsen. In fact, they will. And some people I know will be frustrated because the SES hasn't given them the all clear to go back to their homes. We just ask people to be safe and to follow the warnings, but I'm extremely concerned. I mean, to have to consider boat rescues, airlifting to thousands of people across the state is a major concern.
And reporter Cecilia Connell joins us now south of Windsor in Sydney's northwest. Cecilia, g'day. So what's the situation like there now?
Hi Joe, yes that's right. I'm just outside Windsor off the Blacktown Road, where this severe wet weather is causing some major flooding, as you may see behind me, inundating homes and impacting residents here. Now the Hawkesbury River at Windsor peaked at 12.75 metres overnight, which is a historic high, a level that hasn't been seen in decades, Joe, but that level is expected to hit 13 metres and continue to rise as this wet weather does continue. And we have been told by authorities that that high level of flooding will remain in place for quite a few days. So residents here, if they haven't already left, are preparing to leave their homes, moving their possessions to higher ground and whatnot. So an evacuation warning has also been issued along the Hawkesbury for residents from Wiseman's Ferry to Windsor, as those preparations are underway. I spoke to some residents in Windsor this morning, and here's a little of what they're doing and what they had to say.
We're all talking on the street, and it just, people down there are all evacuating, and we're just getting ready just in case.
Normally me and my husband would walk from our home and take our dogs down here and have a walk, and this is a dog park, but obviously we won't be doing that for a very long time.
And Cecilia, the Colo River and that Colo area is a bit to the north of you, but what can you tell us about what's happening there?
That's right, Joe. So as well as the Hawkesbury River, the Colo River evacuation has also been issued early this morning. So the SES is evacuating residents along that river system to from about 8 o'clock this morning. They've been told to gather essential items, warm clothes, insurance documents, medicines and the like. And they're being evacuated by boat and helicopter because that area really has been cut off by road access. I visited one of the evacuation centres in Richmond a short time ago, and they're preparing in the next hour or so to receive about 200 residents from the Colo area. They're putting out beds and food supplies as we speak currently, so preparations are in full swing here in the Windsor area, Joe.
Yeah, and Cecilia, just before we leave you can see the rain's really coming down there now. How long have you been out there this morning, and has it been pretty persistent?
Yeah, Joe, we've been here since about 7 o'clock this morning and the rain really hasn't abated.
Wow.
We've seen people in kayaks trying to get to their homes, to get possessions. I'm just on the Blacktown Road at the moment, and either side of the road, the levels are just remaining fairly consistent. We've seen cars that are completely flooded, and as you can see behind me, structures and homes really do show that benchmark of how high these flood levels really are.
Yeah, OK, Cecilia Connor reporting there from Windsor. Let's move a little to the north now, to the Hunter region, about 150 k's north of Sydney. Reporter Bindi Bryce joins us now from Wollombi, west of Newcastle. Bindi, g'day. So what's been happening there?
So I'm here in the community of Wollombi. Now, right behind me is the Wollombi Brook, and that river has peaked this morning. But fortunately, the rain has eased off a little bit, and this might be as high as it gets. Now, even though there is this situation with this flooding, fortunately, most of the town has managed to be spared from those rising floodwaters. Most of the establishments and pubs and stuff in town appear to have been spared. There seems to be no flooding in a lot of the houses around here. But the main problem that this community and a lot of other communities in the Hunter are going to face over the next couple of days is having their roads cut off. Now, just here in Wollombi, we've seen 3 roads leading into town that have been cut off. It's very, very difficult to cross those flooded roads. Some people have tried who have 4-wheel drives, but certainly it will make life difficult for people who live around here in the next couple of days. We just spoke with a local pub owner in town. Here's what he had to say a bit earlier.
Oh, there is a lot of people cut off. A lot of the what we call the arms out here. So there's Dairy Arm, Blaxland's Arm. They're roads that go out. They're all cut off at the moment. So the school's closed because the kids can't get to school. We've had a bit of community spirit. You know, people can get, some cars can get across these crossings. So if someone needed heart medication yesterday, so someone went and got it for them.
And Bindi, how's the Hunter faring generally?
So there were some alerts issued this morning. Some parts of the Hunter were expected to receive about 100 millimetres of rain today. So that certainly will keep authorities on alert. And across the region, we are seeing some minor flooding in Maitland and Singleton, and here also at Wollombi. And we're hearing that there is some major flooding happening at Bulga. Now, that town is about another hour west here, so quite remote. And we're hearing that this brook here, the Wollombi Brook, that leads to Bulga, has been flooding in a major way. So certainly a little bit more threatening in that town at the moment. Overall, the situation does seem to be easing a little bit here in the Hunter. Like, the main problem, like I said earlier, we'll just be waiting for all these really swollen rivers to calm down in the next couple of days.
Yeah, at least it's looking lush and green behind you now. It's one of those areas the Hunter has really been badly affected by drought in recent years, so at least that's one positive from it all. OK, Bindi Bryce, thanks for having a chat to us there from Wollombi, north of Sydney. Now, evacuation orders are still in place for parts of the New South Wales mid-north coast. Authorities in Port Macquarie have been outlining which areas are under threat.
We're working on our resupply and evacuations through the Upper Rollins Plains, the upper catchment areas, so Combine, those areas through there. Working down, we're then looking at, we still have the evacuation orders in place for the North Shore, north side of Port Macquarie, and we're working through today to get the remaining residents out from there. Down at Camden Haven, Dumbogan, now that the water's receded, we're working through clearing that so that we can go through and establish what further actions are required down there.
Right now, our priorities are still saving lives, and that'll always be our priority. Then we need to think about restocking and replenishing our isolated people and our isolated properties. And this morning, we are vigorously working on plans to get out to those locations that are isolated and provide them the support and welfare they needed, and at the same time provide them the communication. They need to know what's happening. We need to be able to reassure them that we know they're isolated. We know that there's probably been there for 4 or 5 days now, and it's important that we come up with some plans to get some people in there to provide that support they needed.
Taylor Williams is a show horse trainer who has evacuated from her property near Pitt Town on the Hawkesbury River northwest of Sydney, and she joins us now. Taylor, welcome. So yeah, you're not at your regular spot now on the Hawkesbury. What did it look like when you were most recently there?
So we evacuated on Sunday around the middle of the day, and the water was already at where it stopped at in February last year. So it had reached our arena, and that's when we thought that we should get moving. So yeah, it was rising fast.
And we're seeing some video of that now, looking through a fence. I presume that was the video taken by you. As you understand it, how much higher has the water got since then?
Yeah, so that video, a friend of ours got to get that last night. So
oh, right.
That was last night. So you can see, on the right, there was the stables. That's the house there. There's a few shelters and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it seems like from this video that the bottom level of the house has now gone under.
That's looking across the Hawkesbury towards your property in the distance on the other side of the water?
Yeah, so there's a creek just on the other side of that fence, and that's obviously just escalated, completely risen. And so that's, our house from the back angle.
Yeah, and so what can you tell from that shot there in terms of water through your property there, through the stables and your house?
Yeah, so the stables look like they're completely under, well, all the bottom surface, so all the shavings and everything like that will be completely ruined. The shed looks like it may have reached the shed as well, and definitely the bottom level of the house now.
Yeah, and does it? So that was taken yesterday. As you understand it, has the water raised in level much since then, or not, or come down?
So we just spoke to some neighbours about 5 minutes ago, and they think it's come down about a few inches since yesterday.
Okay.
So I don't know. Well, we'll just have to wait and see, basically.
Yeah, and so you're on the Hawkesbury there before the Colo River meets the Hawkesbury, and the Colo is where all those evacuations are happening today. Would you be pretty concerned if you were further downstream from where the Colo joins the Hawkesbury?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's just a flow-on effect, really. It's sort of the water started to go down, at the dam and North Richmond and that sort of thing yesterday, but not at our place until this morning. So it's just really a flow-on effect, and it's scary.
And so what's the damage then to your property?
So we're not 100% sure. We did try and get most things from downstairs in the house out, or move them upstairs, or just try and stack shelves out of drawers on top of things. And we just tried to do as much as we could. We had a lot of help. We're so grateful to all of our friends for helping us over the last few days. We just have to wait and see until we get home. We're not 100% sure.
And you mentioned previous floods. Have you been there in previous floods? And do you accept that your property is on a floodplain and this will happen from time to time?
Yeah, definitely. We know that it's a flood-prone area, but the February floods last year sort of only reached the arena, which is so far from the house, and it had stopped raining. It rose to that level, and that's as far as it got. But because it had stopped raining, we were okay. We didn't have to evacuate or anything like that. Still had access in and out perfectly fine, whereas now you can't actually access our driveway even, and that's the highest point on our property. It's still bucketing down. So who knows? And
did you have heaps of horses on your properties and your property, and you've moved them somewhere else?
Yeah, so we had 10 at the time. We moved 3 to a neighbour's place across the road, which was higher ground. And then we brought 7 on our horse truck and floats down to Mount Hunter, so near Camden at K Ranch. And they've been so accommodating for us, which is just amazing. So then my partner and I, after we brought all the horses here Sunday, we went back home to just try and do more And we then had to move the other 3 horses out of there and around the corner up the hill to another friend's property because it was just getting too scary. The water was just rising so fast. We've never seen it rise that fast before. So, yeah.
And are you still kind of running on adrenaline now, or has the exhaustion hit you from all the action of the last several days?
Yeah, exhaustion's definitely hit today. We're very grateful that we've got an indoor arena that we can use. So the horses have commenced work again today. They've probably had 5 days off.
Geez, couldn't you give them a break?
I know. We've got really big shows coming up, and unfortunately that's my business. So we've got, of course, the Grand Nationals and the Easter show literally a week away. So we'll all be living here until then anyway.
Yeah, and so it's you often hear the horse community is pretty tight-knit. It's a pretty good community. Yeah,
absolutely. I've had so many messages of support and just, people asking if we need anything or how they can help out, and they'll be there for the cleanup and everything like that. Unfortunately, we don't really know what we need until we find out what's gone.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think you described the chips or something like that on the base of the stable. Is that something that's going to be quite expensive to be replaced?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got dirt floors, so it'll be quite wet for some time. But we'll have to clean everything that's in there out and then replace it all. And it's quite costly to do that. We've got about 6 stables or 7 stables, so it's going to be quite costly.
Yeah. And there's a bit of discussion now about Warragamba Dam. Of course, it's been releasing a heap of water. There's some pretty amazing shots of how much water's been pummeling over the top of Warragamba Dam. And we just heard this morning it's going to be releasing water for the Prime Minister. I'm pretty sure he said 7 more days. They're going to be releasing water from that. There's a bit of discussion now around maybe the authorities should have released water from there earlier. The state government's saying that wasn't really feasible. Have you got any views on the management of the dam?
Not really. What can you do? It was nearly at full capacity anyway when all of this started. So just unfortunately now, until that stops pouring out, then the floodwaters are just not going to go anywhere. So we've got it's a flow-on effect, like I said, so we've got to wait for it to settle up there before it settles down near us.
Yeah, and you're keen to stick where you are there on the Hawkes, where you're not there at the moment, but how much do you love your place? And taking into account what's happened, and there's been a couple of floods there, you're aware of that. Are you determined you're going to stay there and just learn to live with this event?
We're not too sure. There's lots of things in discussion. But of course this is, a massive flood. We don't usually ever get them. So, I guess it depends on the damage as to, what happens next.
Yeah. Okay, Taylor, thanks so much for having a chat to us. And fingers crossed the water jets will continue to come down now slowly over the next several days. And good luck with cleaning up there and with the Easter show coming up.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Taylor Williams there having a chat to us from Camden. Now, Queensland State Emergency Service has received hundreds of calls for help as the state's south is hit by flash flooding and landslides. Michael Rennie reports from Deception Bay in the Moreton Bay region.
The rain continues to fall here in southeast Queensland, and authorities are worried about dangerous conditions, particularly the risk of landslips in that Gold Coast hinterland region. We've already seen a couple of those happen, but they are concerned about more of that happening over the next 24 hours and that also happening in Brisbane as well. There's been a lot of rain in Brisbane, and they're just worried about anywhere in southeast Queensland where it's hilly, the risk of landslips from occurring. They're also concerned about people driving through flooded waters. I'm out here at Deception Bay, north of Brisbane in the Moreton Bay region, and as you can see, the road behind me here is flooded, and you can see just how high it is at the moment, but I've been told by locals that it was much worse than this at one point. It was actually up to that fence line you can see up there, and the water was just rushing through here. There's a property to the right of you. I spoke to the owner of that place. He told me that his house was spared of any flooding, but then there's a property just across the creek from there. You might be able to see it now, where that place on the ground floor did flood. So All up, Deception Bay has had around 181 millimetres of rain in the last 24 hours. The rain is set to continue. We have seen a number of call-outs from the SES in the last 24 hours. So for SES support, over 100 call-outs for their support, mostly for leaky roofs at this point. We haven't seen any swiftwater rescues, which is good. So people have heeded the warnings and have decided not to try and drive through floodwaters like the road behind me here. The Bureau is saying that the conditions are set to worsen today, and we're going to get some more rain through, but then by tomorrow things should start to ease up and we should see some clearer weather by tomorrow.
Michael Rennie reporting there from southeast Queensland, and a driver in southeast Queensland has had a lucky escape after attempting to cross a flooded road. This is vision from the Department of Transport and Main Roads in Queensland. It shows a vehicle stranded after stalling on a flooded causeway. Geez, the driver managed to get out of the car and make it to safety before it got washed away. Authorities advising people to avoid unnecessary travel and stay clear of flooded roads. And yeah, a classic example there of why you should not drive into flooded roads. And you can keep up to date on the flood situation, including the latest warnings and road closures on the ABC News Live blog. It also contains a number of stories from residents and reporters on the ground in the flood zones. That's one of the top stories on abc.net.au/news.